when you start a company with someone, I mean, you're basically getting married to them. Your finances are tied together. You're spending a lot of time together. You have to trust them because any one of your co-founders or business partners, they can pull all the money out of the bank account, go off to Tahiti, and you never see them again. So the people you work with, you need to trust.
This episode is brought to you by Isometric Technologies, ISO, the ultimate freight broker's secret weapon. With ISO, you'll have access to industry-wide service performance benchmarks, dynamic carrier and customer scorecards, and powerful analytics so you can understand your service strengths, address your weaknesses, and differentiate your carrier network from the competition. To learn more and get started, visit iso.io today.
Guys, we got Reed Lustlot of Lost Freight and many other things. No one actually knows what Reed does, but Reed from Please Advise. Tom Stawinski. Tom, little short intro about yourself.
MMA Talk, Freight Caviar, Whitestone Talent, helping people's lives get better, baby.
There we go. Adam Karcz.
Hello, from Iron Peak Solutions, small little boutique freight brokerage out of Denver, Colorado.
Yep. And we're here right now at the JW Marriott in Phoenix for the TIA conference. Ran into Adam. We met last year at the TIA conference, Adam, right?
Just by passing, I was fangirling really hard. Like, oh, there's free caviar. Let's go say hey. And next thing you know, we have way more in common than we thought.
Yeah. So, and it's been cool. And then Tom here also flew in last night. Tom also lives in Poland. I live in Poland. Adam's Polish, Polish-American. We're all Polish-American.
Yeah. All of us are me.
Yeah.
Or Reed's still a brother.
Yeah. But we wanted to kind of like break down like the Polish logistics trucking communities from Chicago overall, like, because Adam, your father came to the States and became an owner-operator. Yep. Tom, your stepdad is an owner-operator.
That's right.
You were in a brokerage, you own a trucking company, so like, and then I was a freight broker as well. I feel like we just talk about that for a little bit, about the trucking community in Poland. But first of all, I guess we could just begin from, Adam, if you could just maybe tell us a little bit about your dad and like how you got into trucking.
So again, the parents came over back in '84. During that time, Soviets were kind of running Poland, and they decided to get out when they could. So coming over, a lot of people didn't recognize their degrees or what they did, and they were both educated. My dad had economics, my mom was a nurse, and it was hard starting off. And so eventually one day, a gentleman that my dad was working for gave him a chance to be a driver. We learned how to get a CDL, started driving for him as a company driver. And once she started racking up a little bit of savings, decided to get his first truck. So from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and then he capped off around 8. This is all when I was a kid.
I'm notorious for interrupting. So he capped off at around 8.
Yeah.
Why do you think he capped off at around 8?
He was trying to manage everything on his own and doing maintenance, making sure drivers are getting paid well, finding work for them, doing all the paperwork. I mean, that's a lot of work, especially if you're a one-stop shop. So I remember as a kid, he was always on the road, and some of my fondest memories are when, you're not supposed to do this, but you say, hey, come on, let's go for a ride. And so we'd go just, drive around Chicago or to other parts of the States, and that's...
MH shipments or pickups and deliveries.
Yeah. Sometimes he mostly did it when there was a cargo on the back. So that way he's like, hey, this is what a truck feels like. This is what I do for a living. And especially since he was gone for a couple of days at a time, being able to spend, just those few hours, which is like really, really special.
Yeah, together with your pops. Yeah, that's similar. Same. I remember going to Shorewood, Illinois, Hostess, and like seeing that pick up next to Joliet, and just walking into that shipper and like seeing what it's like to sit there and wait to get loaded, and like it's dark, and you get the Hostess cookies, and like
this was when you were young.
I think this was the one. I think this might have been.
This was like last week.
This was, I think, maybe my first year in Coyote, or while I was getting into Coyote.
Okay.
To kind of just understand that a little bit more, like seeing the shipper side.
And you went there with your stepfather, or?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little about that time, like your stepfather and like his like the logistics trucking experience?
So, Pops, his older brother was the first one to come from Poland to Chicago, and the story I know is that in the mid '90s, he had the largest Polish trucking company in Chicago, and they were
Stepdad? Or your own
older brother.
Okay, got it.
And he got all of his other 3 brothers. One turned into a truck mechanic, and 2 of them drivers. One of them being my stepdad. And yeah, the older brother had this company, like they were running with him, like that family synergy. But he was also able to build up to like a fleet of, I'm not sure, like, but a pretty big fleet, like in maybe close to 100, if not over 100. It's been a while since like we sat at Christmas dinner, like we just spent it together, and like we talked about other things, but you know, we've done that before, and so like seeing that is interesting. And he's my stepdad, so like I remember when my mom and him met, and like this was pre-2008, and they're rolling up in Mercedes Benzes, the black. Was is my. Right. Are you with like the mafia? Oh, you know, I came back from Poland because as a young boy, I would go to Poland for the summer, and I would come back, and yeah, it's just sick ass mansions. Like all the money he was making there, he was investing into sick real estate in Barrington, like elevators and stuff, and all the it was cool. And so like that kind of opened the eyes for me of like, trucking, you can make money in this business. Yeah, I'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey there, amazing listeners. If you're enjoying what you're hearing on our podcast, we need your support. It will only take a moment, but it would mean the world to us. Please make sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to share with one of your friends that would enjoy our content. Your engagement helps us reach more people and bring more awesome episodes to you. Thanks a million, and thanks for being part of the podcast community.
Reed, you got anything to say?
I'm not Polish. My dad is in the golf business. But I will say, what's interesting though is both your parents were heavily involved in transportation. And did they ever tell you to get into it or to not get into it? Like, did they sway you at all in that? Because my father is in the golf business, and he's like, and when I started out of college at Echo, like I just needed a job, and so I started brokering freight, and I was like my whole family was in the golf business, and I was like, you know, everything from playing professionally to like owning courses and managing courses, and my dad was always like, "Don't ever come into this business." Like,
It's the golf.
you're correct, because it's just not a very. He was always just like, transportation is a gigantic market. Like golf is a very small market. There's a bunch of people fighting over scraps, basically. Not scraps, but like there's just a lot of, this is not a huge pie, basically. And so he was always like, you got to just, like, I would call him, you know, I'd walk out of work, you know, after getting my freight railed by Chicago carrier.
Horse carriers.
by your step.
Oh no. That original company was not doing rail.
Okay.
From
I believe it.
yeah. A lot of the people that worked there, they went off and started the go-tos and the big companies.
Then they started railing. Okay. Yeah. So, but I would always be like, you know, pissed off, like leaving work. I'm like, this fucking sucks. Like I was whatever. It was making good money, but like there's a lot of stress.
Sandy, when you were newer, rep at Echo, like, what the heck's going on with my load?
Yeah. So, but he was always just like, just don't leave. Just be in transportation. Like it's a good market. So I'd be like, your parents, your people ever be like, you should do it or you shouldn't, or what do you think?
I'll answer this one. Yes. He pushed really, really hard. So since I was able to go pick up a wrench, she had me in the yard helping her, you know, swapping out batteries, maintenance. I got this big scar on my head and tried to change a tire in the most Polish way possible. And then after that, when I was 21, to get my way through school, he had me go and get my CDL so that way I can go and drive with the team during the summers. He was like, well, I don't. Yeah, so we did flatbed, and so while my friends were going home for the summer or getting internships, I was in a cab with my dad for 3 months straight. Yeah, so that's
what a flatbed.
On a flatbed. So there were times where it'd be raining outside and we're going, 8 feet high on some gates and stuff, throwing straps over, trying to pull the tarps over, into that soaking wet, super, super heavy. And the one thing that he always preached was stick together with your brother and your sister. Stick together, because we're first generation. We're the only family we have here. Everyone is back in the old country, and now we all work together. So that's lots of influence there.
And those values stuck.
Yeah.
Because today you operate Iron Peak Solutions, and your entire family works together.
Yeah.
Except your brother just recently went to follow his passion, but
that's it. He was with us for 4 years. He was employee number 4. I founded the company with my sister, and then, my brother from another mother. My best friend since 6th grade. Heyman ran our accounting.
Dude,
yeah,
I'm such a believer of that. Like, working with people that you like. A lot of people are like, don't work with family or friends.
Yep.
I'm like, I believe I'd rather work with family and friends. Like, yes, there's going to be challenges with strangers, and there's going to be challenges with family and friends.
Yep.
I'd rather go through the challenges with the people that I really know and
well, one thing that stuck with that is that I forgot who I had the conversation with, but they said when you start a company with someone, you're basically getting married to them. Your finances are tied together. You're spending a lot of time together. You have to trust them because any one of your co-founders or business partners, they can pull all the money out of the bank account, go off to Tahiti, and you never see them again. So the people you work with, you need to trust. And if you trust your family, the hardest part is trying not to act like family in the office, having that respect, having those boundaries. But once you kind of have that open communication, it's the best feeling in the world because you have
exactly.
You can depend on each other.
And setting those boundaries, like you do that with you have to practice setting boundaries in life. And if you can do it with family, then shoot, you can do it with anyone.
It's been tough.
It's been tough.
Yeah. I do want to get back to like the whole Polish community in trucking, in Chicago specifically. Like one of the advantages of like knowing Polish was when I was a freight broker starting out was like I was the only guy that spoke Polish in the office.
Oh, that's awesome.
So like all the Polish carriers I called, like they wanted to work with me, and they would call and then once they found out that I worked there, and they would call someone else, they'd be like, "Oh, just transfer me to Paul," and we had that special bond, and then that's been like very useful for me. And that when I was younger and I had to go to Polish school every Saturday, I hated waking up in the morning, and then I was like, why do I need this language, know this language? And then when I became a freight broker, I'm like, wow, this is so useful.
Yes.
Say it. And it's I could say that. Yeah, it was honestly the reason why I was a good freight broker was because I just had these relationships with all these Polish trucking companies, and so that was definitely kind of cool, unique in the Polish side. And I know, Tom, you were the youngest intern at Coyote at the time.
And a lot of these companies pulled through, not just for me, but Coyote. And that I was in the bullpen at Coyote in 2013 when during that winter there was a polar vortex and the rails froze. This was a key year for Coyote from the conversations we've had and the things I've learned is that Coyote was one of the first brokerages who told customers that, hey, if I'm going to take this load for you at this price, I'm going to do it no matter what. And they honored their word, where that was rare in the industry up until then, because other brokerages were like, oh, I'm not losing money on this. Here you go. Yeah. And so they had the bullpen run by Ryan Rusnick. Shout out Ryan. Nick Wertner, my mentor, and also a ton of great people that are in cool places now. And what we were specialized in is that we could call anybody's carrier and focus on day of hottest freight that has to move at any price to save the customer relationship, etc. And so
that's specifically what this group was for?
Yeah.
Okay.
The bullpen. Yeah. And I remember side quest over here, if you guys are okay with that.
I'll follow you.
Cool. So, and I remember
we're talking about wow. No, just
dude, I was down to do that. We could relate to that. So the side quest, I remember going at the end of my internship or something and getting a cool bullpen banner and getting a cool bull neon green, and Coyote had the neon green colors and having that on the thing, and that was their flag of the bullpen.
Do you still have that?
No, I just have a video of it hanging in like Jamie, Jamie, I'm blanking on your last name, but Jamie, dancing, Cronwell, dancing on the desk at Coyote. And like, it was just such a fun time. And like, we were hustling to get really hard loads to move. And because of these connections to these companies, I was able to call the owners of like a Go-To or another brokerage or a trucking company and say, hey, like, I know you guys are all booked. I know it's 5:30 p.m., 6 p.m. Anything you can do, like, give me a legit truck. Don't fucking consolidate anything. Just give me a legit truck. No,
Go rail.
like, what's it gonna take? Because I could probably bounce on tequila or someone, and they pull a truck from another broker, and they boom, sure enough, load gets picked up every single time. And every night, I was able to like a lot of times I was able to,
Curious, like, what percentage of those loads do you think you booked on Polish carriers?
all of them. No, I mean me, that was my specialty.
Okay.
You know, if something bounced late in the day in Chicago, that was my specialty. Like, we had other guys on the team that were better in like St. Louis and the Southeast and stuff.
Sure.
But my specialty was the Chicago.
Yeah, the Chicago Polish carrier market.
Exactly.
Okay, and then also after Coyote, you spent a few years running a trucking company.
That's right.
With a Polish guy who used to be an owner-operator.
That's right.
And you opened a trucking
Marcin. Shout out Marcin Lomajewski. Dude.
You met him through Coyote, right?
Yeah, he was my best friend. Like, all my friends went to college. I started at Coyote when I was 17. Well, so I had my friends at Coyote, but like Marcin, you know, like while sometimes there weren't as many bounces late in the day, or like whatever, we had everything posted up or making calls, and I would talk to Marcin sometimes over the call, and like, this guy never sleeps. He's hustling all the time. He lived in his truck for like 11 years. Well, he lived for 11 years saving money to start Percy. And when I started at Coyote, he had 4 owner ops, and himself, and they were driving. And he delivered the best service in the world for me, like better than all these large trucks. Like, everyone did it, but like for me, like, he always helped me out. It helped us out.
Yeah.
And relationships.
Yeah.
And once Coyote sold to UPS, I went to the trucking side and partnered with him. Within like 2 months, we went from 4 owner ops to 35. And we, like, because he had a lot of money saved up through his hard work and everything, we were able to pay everyone within a week. And what was very important for me at Percy is all my friends were at Coyote, and like, I understood the brokerage, and I hated this disconnect between broker and carrier. And because like, shoot, like, carriers, like the driver, you know, I just didn't like that. And I just wanted to be a carrier that does the best, most transparent work, so that like brokers are just like, these guys are legit, you know. Mm-hmm. And we did that for the drivers, and we did that for the brokers. You know, to this day, Percy, like, my brother, you better be doing a good job, Ryan.
I do want to add to that real quick, that if you Google Thomas Stawinski into Google, you'll find an article from the Carrier Commercial Journal, CCJ, about Tom, like, being the youngest trucking company owner in the United States. And I remember I read that in 2016. Because my cousin went to Stevenson, just like Tom did. And he sent me that because he knew I was in logistics, about you. And I read that. And then when we met in 2020, I was like, oh, crap, you're the guy that like I read an article about 4 years ago. But then what's like the craziest part of all of this was the fact that like Reed and I have been like friends for like a little bit over a year.
Oh, we circle.
And like a few months ago, like I sent Reed like a video.
Did you even have? Oh, there was the thumbnail of a YouTube video.
No, it was some.
I'll send our
It was like I don't know, talking shit about me on YouTube, like basically calling me like, I don't know, like a fraud or something. And I sent you that video.
Yeah,
I did that video. There's a thumbnail of me and Tom like going to Armenia. And then like Reed's like replies like, yo, is that Tom? Like, I'm like,
no, how do you know what I look like?
Because one of the first photos on my phone is like some selfie you sent me in like 2017.
Yeah,
I'm so notorious for that.
Or just so the audience like listening,
find that, get out.
Listening here understands is the fact that back when Reed was a broker at Echo, his first relationship carrier was Tom and Percy Transportation.
Yep.
And so like
that would have been in 2016.
Wow. Yeah. So Reed texted me back like, this was like in August, I think. It was like, yo, is that Tom? I'm like, yeah, that's Tom. And you guys got reconnected after a few years.
Yep.
And then now we're here in Phoenix.
Dude, it's crazy, man.
Small world.
It's insane. Yeah, he was the best character. Yeah, he was. Yeah, for sure.
And now you're gonna be a top broker, baby.
That's the plan.
And you guys are probably already doing a great job, like from the sounds of it. And
We're doing well. We're rocking and rolling. Survived 2023 better than most, and have just been growing, rocking and rolling. I mean, no complaints here.
So now I want to get Adam to your story a little bit.
Sure.
This episode is brought to you by Isometric Technologies, ISO, the ultimate freight broker's secret weapon. With ISO, you'll have access to industry-wide service performance benchmarks, dynamic carrier and customer scorecards, and powerful analytics so you can understand your service strengths, address your weaknesses, and differentiate your carrier network from the competition. To learn more and get started, visit iso.io today.
Your sister is a CEO.
Yes.
Okay. And she ran the TQL office in Denver?
She worked at the TQL Denver, the Denver office at TQL, and won, female broker of the year there.
Wow.
And then what wound up happening is, I went to Purdue for engineering, Wheeler Up, and did the gig for that for 2.5 years out of school, and then had the chance. I was looking for a job, right? I wasn't happy with where I was at. I was about to jump shit and move to Jersey, and she approached me, and she's like, "Hey, I got this idea. What do you think about starting a freight brokerage?" I'm like, getting back in freight? I don't know how that sounds. She's like, it's a good idea. So we started.
What was her background, real quick though?
She was she actually still before that, back in 2008, because she finished school in 2008, and that's when the recession happened from was it Fannie Mae or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so during that time, she helped my dad incorporate his MC a bit more to she helped run like his trucking company.
Mm-hmm.
So she did that for about 2-3 years. That's how she got a job at TQL.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Was there for several years, and then she came to the table with all the knowledge. I came to the table with some hustle. So then we started working together. First started off dispatching like shop trucks and then just whatever carriers we can get to work with my dad's MC. And then we're just like, no, we need to just focus on the brokerage. And so then that was 2019 is when we kind of made that hard shift into more of a brokerage approach. And then 2020 COVID. So it kind of worked out well where there was only 3 of us at the time, 3 founders, shout out to Eric B. Sound. My boy.
Is that the Navy SEAL?
No, that's my brother-in-law.
Okay.
You may as well be a Navy SEAL. This guy is built like a machine. Iron Man, working out, all 3 combined is like the mentally strongest individual I've ever met. He's a great friend and a great business partner. So much respect to that guy. But then 2020 rolled around, and we thought, all right, well, what's going to happen in this whirlwind of COVID? Like, what's going on? And it worked out perfectly because some of our first accounts were in produce, steel, and lumber, and during that time people started building houses like crazy. Food was hard to get on the shelves, so they were trying to go and get us in back and forth. And then
So you got more freight.
we got more freight, and we were able to come through, and that's when trying to find a carrier was almost impossible. But if we found one, the margins were pretty good. And so since we had very little overhead, I mean, we were working off Excel sheets, doing load boards, building our carrier list, going through. So we wound up swirling away a little bit, and then started adding employee number 4, which is, my brother Michael. Shout out again. And then started adding employee number 5, employee number 6, and now we're at 18.
Boom.
Like that. Yeah. So it's 6 years in business, 18 people in work.
And is your team mostly cradle to grave at this point, or?
We started that way. So last year, because of coming to TIA, for those out there working with freight and logistics, especially on the brokerage side.
Get over it.
Yeah, get over you.
Shout out TIA.
Yeah, shout out TIA. This is your home. We learned so much. We were connected with Dr. Jim Kenny. Great man, has a lot of knowledge to pass along, helped us build our playbook. Worked with some compensation consultants, and because of that, we shifted from a cradle to the grave over to more of a front end business, like a hunter, account manager, and then operations type role. Because what we were finding is that when you specialize, it makes it easy. But when you're cradle to the grave, next thing you know, you could only handle so much, And so what we want to do is we build our account managers, give them as much freight as they can handle, then start getting as lean as possible. We're investing heavy in our IT, we're investing heavy in our processes, and it just helps us do more with it. So, answer your question.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. That I mean, I think that's a natural succession of the business. It's good to do cradle to grave, understand everything, and slowly start. I use this word a lot. Buy back your time, but you start buying back. Buy back your time. You know, it's a really good book, right? You legitimately start taking positions off of your 10 other people start filling that up.
And one thing we do with our hunters, so the ones going out and getting the freight, so we make sure that they're trained top to bottom in operations, but we ask them to do the first 10 loads or so, cradle to the grave, because there tends to be a disconnect when if I get an account, pass it off, you're like, yeah, start booking that freight. And you're like, yo, we're losing $50 every time we move it. Why do I want this account? So if we can go in and learn it.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know why every brokerage doesn't require sales reps to like start by booking freight.
Yeah.
Like by being a carrier.
It's like vice versa for carrier reps to call shippers and like actually talk to them or account managers at least, you know.
But I think it is a good idea to start.
Oh, it's a great idea because there was, I mean, especially when you work in like a bigger company like that, like an Echo or a Coyote or whatever, like you start as a sales rep. Right. Like, I mean, there were times where I would be booking freight as a carrier rep and the guy would clearly have no idea, like, what questions to ask warehouses, like how, understand, is this like a good place? Is this an attractive facility? Is this an attractive customer? Is this actually good freight? Like, do carriers actually want this stuff? Like, you know.
And I think that's something that's an evolution that's probably going to start happening now because, like, this is evolving real time. And I think like the early brokerages that were adapting that style, which was a Coyote, that mixed carrier rep and customer rep, were trying to figure it out and like how well could people adapt to do the customer sales. And they also needed like a lot of running a brokerage is kind of like what are those, jigsaws or
seesaw?
Yeah, where it's like how many carrier reps do I have to customer reps and balance it.
And it depends on the market. And I got a question for you. So, you know, when times are hard, everyone's looking for carrier sales rep. They're hard to land. But then when it's hard to book freight, everyone's looking for an operations individual. So you work in staffing, you're recruiting over in the old country. So what are you seeing as far as finding good sales reps or finding good operations reps, like especially with the changing markets? Like when do you hop on that opportunity of, market's about to shift, let's start grabbing up whatever respective role?
That's a good question. I'm just a believer of that, where I think people in another country probably shouldn't start with the only. I'll finish that sentence. They should probably start with tracking, level up to carrier sales, level up to customer ops / customer sales. That is my opinion based on like what I've seen in the industry. The only caveat to that is seeing and listening to my friend Paul, who ran the Ukraine office and had 80 reps with him under that he had brought on. And some of those reps with not much experience, it sounds like, based on our conversations, they were able to land some giant accounts from Ukraine.
Yeah.
Right? If you could tell me a little.
Sure.
Am I saying that right?
Okay, so when I started in Ukraine, it was mostly just tracking and carrier sales reps, and a lot of times you start people in tracking and move on to carrier sales. But like we evolved into having like intermodal account management, and then like when I was leaving, like I was like transitioning from that role, they had started bringing in customer sales reps, and I mean, I'm pretty sure they were just brought on because they had like sales experience. Like they actually weren't doing tracking, carrier sales. They didn't evolve like that. They just had sales experience in Ukraine or somewhere. And their English was really good. And then like there, I heard that there was customer sales reps making more money in Ukraine than certain individuals in Chicago.
Wow.
Yeah.
I believe it.
And so like that's the whole thing that debunks my entire theory that like you should go through that entire process before you become a customer sales rep.
Like I feel like, yeah, you don't need it. I think it's important though to understand that for sure. I don't have all the information there just because I had left it was probably in place for like 3 months by the time I had left. And so it had evolved after I left, and I heard, from people that work there that there's like people crushing it.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show that you could outsource your customer sales reps.
You could outsource
if you have the right process.
If
you have the right processes in place, you could outsource it to other countries.
Yeah.
And like what I think is obviously, people are potentially afraid to do that because like, why would a shipper ever want to work with someone that's like based in Ukraine or based in Poland or let's just say, Latin America, for example. But it's like, for some people that's like really unique for a shipper. Like obviously some shippers might be like, I'm not going to work with you. But then there's some shippers like, damn, like you live in Ukraine. Like, how's that like? Like, how's that like? You know, how's
It's
like
different.
Yeah. And like people are intrigued by it and they want to talk to you. They want to learn more about you. And if they find out like, oh, you're like a cool person and like, you know, you live in Ukraine, but like you're smart, you have great English, like
If you can
I do really
communication, like I think there's just a lot of stereotypes about like the inability to communicate. Like, and if you can communicate with somebody, like whatever, you can connect with them. Like,
100%. And one of like the things, the problems with like a lot of people in America is that like there's like that entitlement factor. Like people want to make like they believe they deserve to make a lot of money, and you know life is expensive. So like sure, like you need to make a lot of money here. But at the same time, like I feel like people, not all, because there's some really hardworking Americans, like no doubt, like really hard. But there's like some people that like you know like they're not working hard enough. So it's like, well, you could outsource it. Right.
I just think,
And there's like, that's like actually like a topic that there's a lot of like opinions on. Cause I know like the community on Twitter, like Lombard, Justin, like they like really hate like the whole outsourcing thing. Right.
like outsourcing of brokerage roles or
Brokerage roles, like I think any role, right?
I mean, outsourcing of jobs overall, like people taking our jobs in America. Right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that is a real conversation that to be had. However, with the changes in technology, it's like now your job as a carrier rep graduating college, starting at one of these brokerages, low key, like you are now not competing with just other Americans graduating college, but you're competing now with that hardworking kid in India, Philippines, Colombia, Poland.
Exactly.
I mean, it's only especially as the staffing companies get more sophisticated and get better at training, and there's more of a talent pool to pull from, or like have experience in the industry. Like it's only going to get like it's going to be this like web of expertise and experience in these countries to be able to like really move into the more like sales roles. I mean, it will happen. Like, of course it's going to happen. Why would it not happen?
Especially with the world right now. I mean, you got to face it. We live in a global economy now. Like it's you're working with people in Germany, people in China, people in Latin America, and thank you, Internet, for making that happen. But one thing we need to realize is that now competition is going to get stiffer than ever, right? So if you're working with countries overseas, working with employees from overseas, I mean, they're trying to make that bread like everyone else.
Exactly.
When I go and I look for my sales reps, the number one thing I look for is, are you hungry? Are you hungry? Attitude, because you can control your attitude, you can control your effort, and if you really want to go and get after that, I can train you. That's right. I can show you the skills. I mean, freight's not rocket science. Yeah. But if you go and you put that grind in, you have those 10, 12-hour work days, and you apply yourself, that's what it takes, man. Yeah. And that's who we have to compete with.
Yeah.
So, right.
Totally. We have like 13 minutes before the booths open up. Okay. So there's like, I do want to talk a little bit about Westman Express. Or just like, I don't know if this is the right topic to transition, and Todd, you might not want to talk about this. I don't know. Like, there's obviously like, we were talking about like Polish trucking companies, and there is that stigma like, oh, Polish rail companies, you know, Polish trucking companies that just rail freight. And I feel like it is like a freight caviar topic, worthy topic to talk about.
Is that, let me ask you something though. Is that a stereotype of Polish carriers, like, or is that just a stereotype? I mean,
I would say mostly Polish. I know this pretty well. Okay, like if you look at the Chicago like trucking market, like most Polish trucking companies are the ones that are notorious for railing and consolidating. There's obviously other communities that still do it. But like the vast majority, I would say like 80% of them. I do like following the 80-20 rule. 80% of them are Polish.
Discretion. What are you talking about? A balcony? Like warning?
And warning. Yeah, this is
warning.
Yeah.
These statistics are not verified.
But okay. Yeah, these are not verified.
80%. Could be much higher, could be much lower.
80% of like the Polish. I'm saying like all the freight companies are rail freight, consolidated freight. I would say 80% of them from Chicago are Polish. But there's a few caveats. But first of all, the story about Westman Express. So I just booked my second load as a carrier rep at a broker. It was just like my first month being a broker, and I booked Westman Express on a load of plastic bottles from Utah to Michigan. It was sold as a full truckload, but it was like 5,000 pounds. So, you know, like they like already just wanted it right away because they knew it's not going to be a full truckload. And they ended up delivering it like 5 days late. railing it and stuff like that. And it was a freight guard. It was nasty. It was a bad experience. I had a really bad experience with them.
Let me ask you a question though.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time, and you guys might have had this too, where you had a load that was like really light, but what turned out to actually be a full truckload? Because a lot of times these guys will ask like, "Oh, how many pallets is it?" And that's like a dead giveaway that like something's going on. And so like, but most of the time, somebody asked me, I'd be like, I have no idea. You know, it's 5,000 pounds, whatever. Yeah. But so, you know, there's commodities that like take up a ton of space, but they're really light.
Yeah,
right. Do you ever have a carrier that assume, oh, it's probably going to be a partial, and then they get to the pickup and it's a full truckload, and they took it for like $1,000 under what it would cost them to run it truckload, and they're just like screwed. Like, did you ever have that happen?
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I had a guy show up to a pickup, and I knew he was there, knew they were loading him, realized it was a full truckload, and then freaked out and told me to take the freight out. He was like, this isn't what I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, I was a little truck. I was just,
Yeah.
Is there anything, Tom, you want to add to this, or do you want to?
A lot.
Yeah. Why do you think, like, I'm interested in, because I've met a lot of these guys who do this stuff and like are open, at least privately, about doing it, and they don't seem like nefarious type people. Yeah. To me, it's kind of interesting because like in many ways they are performing the job more efficiently than otherwise, right? Like it you know, if there were no rules and if there were no, like, assume no nefarious intentions, like they're literally just being more efficient and doing the job cheaper. And like the fact that like you should be able to make more money doing it is a more efficient mode of doing things, especially if you consolidate and put it on the rail. Like, dude,
I think that's one of the big opportunities right now as the game evolves.
Yeah, if you could do that legitimately, you can make a ton of money.
And that's what the big carriers are doing, the big brokers are doing. Yeah. You know, even like the CHs and the people we were talking about, like they saw that they're doing it. Yeah. They're making a lot of money. Like, oh, we could just put it, like, brand it, be transparent about it, honest, and make it not sound like consolidation, but consolidation in a legit way, you know? Yeah. And that's just like why the truth sets you free. Just be honest and truthful.
But like, why do you think that these companies do what they do?
I know why.
Okay.
Because none of these company owners walked into Coyote or CH or any of these companies and sat down with the owners and said, hey, this is what it looks like. This is how I do it. Yeah. Can we work together on this? Like, all the loads that are like this, I can run them for you cheaper.
Yeah.
And I'll do it this way. No one ever had that conversation, and that's why going back to communication, it's key. And like, if you are a business owner at one of these companies and you come to TIA or you come to like and meet some of these companies and say, yo, this is what I specialize in, this is what I do, I want to do it legit, and like, you're gonna have to, you know, there's a lot of stigma and a lot of like, it's all mistrust. Martin Luther King Jr. Where are you going with this? Do you guys know what he was shot for?
What he was shot for?
Yeah.
It was in Memphis, right?
In Memphis?
Yeah, I
think it was Memphis.
I'm not sure it was in Memphis. Somebody audit me on that, but I'm real sure.
So Martin Luther King Jr. was trying to like bring people together, and people distrusted. I don't have the quote in front of me. I wish I had my journal here. But pretty much he's like, this entire hate towards my race, your race, etc. starts because we fear each other. We fear each other because we don't communicate with each other. We don't communicate with each other. I think he said another really smart thing. Where's our J?
That was about to be. That was about to be like a slam dunk. Got stopped at the goal at the basket.
You know, you win some, you miss some. But at least I'm taking those shots, baby.
But do you think that like something about them being like, many of them are immigrants, like first generation immigrants, and they've come from like oftentimes countries where like you basically. I don't want to say lawless, but it's just a different mentality. Like I feel like a lot of these guys have, right? Or that
people work within the confines of the system that they're given. Yeah. And they think that can get away with it or do what they can. You're going to do it.
They don't want changing the system. Yeah. If someone was doing it, I could do it too. I just have to lie about that, okay, I'll copy that. And like the one downside to having that open conversation is like, okay, because you're doing that and whatever, let's do a lower price. And they're making a ton of money doing it this way. And so money is like the thing. People want to make as much money, but if they were okay with making a little bit more money, but having a way less stress, but being transparent, like I would always go for the transparent, less money, but less problems versus fear.
Definitely. I mean, I used to have like the relationships built out with the Polish trucking companies, and they would do over the road. Like a lot of them would do over the road plus have rail available. So like I would ask them like, hey, give me a quote on this for rail and OTR, and then they tell me how many days it takes, and then like I'll just pick which one I want.
A lot of them wanted brokers like you who would just be like, yo, this is what I'll do this way, this is what I'll do this way. And
like
then,
the communication happened because I would go visit them, I'd hang out with them, and like they would trust me. You know, like if you call a Polish carrier who does rail or any company that does rail, like they'll tell you they don't do rail. It's all OTR, right? All of it.
But then there are people like a top guy at C.H. Robinson. His last name translates, he's Polish. Yeah. His last name translates to rich. A lot of the Chicago CH guys will know. He's one of the top Chicago sales reps at CH. Okay. And he was able to, he had so much sales and influence and confidence and respect within the office that he was able to come and bring those carriers in. And he was able to bring some of those big carriers in legit. And that's how CH now does that. And like, we could have talked to Phil about that.
You know what's crazy? Someone DM'd me about him 2 days ago, saying, I can't tell this on camera, but I'm going to tell you off camera about him.
I mean, he's a cool guy.
It was crazy because, okay, we'll talk about it in a second.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an interesting game, and the history of it's so fascinating, and I think the way it's evolving now is being more transparent, and I think we could even connect this to Armenia in a lot of ways, like. But that's a deep.
That's a rabbit hole, bro.
That's a rabbit hole. I mean, we've got like 5 minutes.
I mean, the reality is that a lot of the brokerages know what's going on, right? And they look the other way.
We want the market.
Joe, they look. Wait, because when you get a call on like in Illinois to California, and it's like $1,000 under what everyone else is quoting you. No. What do you think? Like, oh yeah, like this is great. Like,
double throat.
And as long as they don't put forks through the pallets, like these guys just don't.
And what's happening now is they know that like they could give them the load and be assholes to them if throughout the entire process because they're doing something wrong. Where like they are also kind of, but
it's also just like I mean it's a very interesting like microcosm of the industry because it is so like I mean it's crazy sometimes.
It's true, but like to have like a good rail company that does rail, I just say you need like the right infrastructure because like you need local drivers in both cities, right? And like you need to have good rail connections and stuff like that. Like,
and you create a lot of jobs for them.
You have to make it like kind of a sophisticated operation,
dude. Okay, I used to warehouse there. I used to work at the American Highway, and I'll tell like I love the American Highway. They I think they sold the business, so they actually sold the rail contracts because they had rail contracts. They sold them, but what they did, what is it called when you put the full trailer on a rail?
Trailer on a flat car.
Trailer on a flat car?
Yeah,
flat car.
TOFC.
So you could actually ship like a full trailer, 53-foot trailer, like on a flat car, and like you'll see them, and like there's like quick rail that will go from Chicago to LA in 4 days, Chicago to Portland in 4 days. It's only a day longer
that's not
than
bad.
OTR, as long as you're able to pick up that trailer and you have like the drivers for it, local drivers. Yeah. It's 1 day longer, and you save like thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like I used to communicate with them all the time, and they did also Chicago, Dallas, same thing.
Mm-hmm. But the customer,
everyone is learning.
they paid. The customer paid for fucking 3 days, and so at the end of the day, there is like that's not cool.
No, but you
ran out of hours.
You communicate with the shipper too, break. Yeah. But I remember there was one time when I worked for a broker, they railed a load that they didn't think was hot, but it turned out to be really hot, and it was a huge company. They're actually here around. I'll tell you guys in a second. And they're like huge, and literally the customer put us into do not use because that one shipment, and it was about like that customer. I just millions of dollars.
I can
like this was like huge. I mean like a longer.
I can feel the emotions of getting of the issue arising and then finding out that it's like a hot load.
Oh my
like after the fact, I can feel that in my phone. You know what I mean? Like that feeling, like oh my, like your heart sinking, me like I am fucked. It's like there's nothing I can do about
You
it.
turn on like the intermodal rail tracking, and it's like beeping somewhere in Wyoming, and you're like, it has to be in California right now.
John, that is I do not miss that feeling, man.
Yeah,
The amount of customer reps that have lost sleep and hours. And
God,
yeah,
oh God.
totally.
Well, you don't get a lot of sleep in logistics.
It's
Yeah, it's rough out there, guys. This was great.
Yeah.
right. I still want to do another one, getting more into your
Yeah.
but
Well, if
you want a fun little
Yeah,
side quest.
yeah.
Side quest.
We're actually going to start the Tom Salinsky show. Tom's going to be doing 5-hour-long podcasts.
5 hours.
Minimum 5 hours.
Yeah.
World of Warcraft.
Adam's going to like walk out after 2.
Let's get him, guys. We'll see where it goes. No promises. But also, going to be doing UFC thing.
Yes,
so,
yes.
but yeah, that's
Cool. So guys, we got 2 hours of exhibition now. Let's get out of here. Yeah, we got a DAT party afterwards. Woo! Let's go. All right, sick.
EIA 2024.
Yo, Adam, thanks for
Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Freight Caviar podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, or if you didn't, leave a review. Let me know what you think. I appreciate any feedback. If you'd like to have more Freight Caviar content, go to freightcaviar.com and subscribe to my email newsletter.